question that I've been seeing a lot of people posing. Is Godzilla the antagonist slash villain of Godzilla vs. Kong? And if we look at media sources covering the trailer that just was released a day and a half ago, which has been warmly received, by the way, there are a lot of people who have been using those terms, protagonist, antagonist, hero, villain, to describe Godzilla and Kong. And I want to try to dissuade some frustration from Godzilla fans in this video by suggesting that I do not believe that Godzilla or Kong should be relegated to being described as being protagonist or antagonist because, one, protagonist and antagonist are terms that are typically reserved for human characters that have human intentions and human motivations, whereas giant monsters don't have those types of things. A protagonist obviously is a character who is heroic, who has a strong moral compass, who has some sort of cause that they're heroically advocating for, whereas the antagonist has the exact opposite motivation, so on and so forth. I am going to argue that Godzilla, especially, is more so an anti-hero than a protagonist or antagonist. Hear me out. If we look at the history of the Godzilla franchise, Godzilla is often depicted as being an anti-hero or a force of nature who may have some heroic qualities, but isn't always heroic and has his own motivations and intentions. So he may save the day from an evil, villainous monster, but he destroys a city in the process, or does something else cataclysmic in the process. The best example of Godzilla being an anti-hero, I would say, is the 90s Heisei Godzilla films, where we see Godzilla being kind of like in this fluid space between protagonist and antagonist, where we don't know if he's going to be good or bad. In some movies, him fighting the monster just so happens to be the best thing in humanity's interest, whereas in other movies, maybe there are other monsters who end up, getting in Godzilla's way and taking care of him, like Godzilla vs. Mothra 92, for example. But if we look back at Godzilla's origin in Gojira, the 1954 film, I don't really think that the original creators intended Godzilla to fall within the protagonist and antagonist duality either, because in that film it's humanity that is the actual antagonist. It's humanity's flawed nature that led to the creation of nuclear weapons, their use of nuclear weapons, and ultimately the creation of this creature that is a metaphor for those nuclear weapons. The MonsterVerse has done a great job continuing to depict Godzilla as being this force of nature or anti-hero. If we look at the first Godzilla film of the legendary MonsterVerse, Godzilla 2014, Godzilla so happens to intercept the communication of two other monsters who are trying to seek out nuclear energy. And he so happens to stop them. He ends up destroying San Francisco in the process, but at the end of the film, humans are left in awe, and they're left thinking, did Godzilla save us? Like, that, I remember that question is splayed on a large television screen billboard on the side of a building, or inside of a building, that asks that question. And that continues, that theme continues in Godzilla King of the Monsters as well, where Godzilla, being depicted as an alpha predator of sorts, it fights another alpha predator, and it so happens to just work in the advantage of humanity. I feel like that film is much more distinct in depicting the protagonists and antagonists of the monsters, if we really want to use those words. Ghidorah being the antagonist, Mothra being the protagonist, considering she is more benevolent and more heroic and has more moral high ground and intention than the others, and Godzilla and Rodan being those anti-heroes as well, who have their own motivations, who have their own intentions, right? But if we look at the humans, we see humans in that film as being depicted as the antagonists as well. So that begs the question of, will this continue in Godzilla vs. Kong? I still think that Godzilla is going to be the anti-hero, because if we watch the trailer, it is said that there is something that is provoking Godzilla to attack cities. So I don't think that that's Kong, because if Kong really was Godzilla's nemesis, if Kong was really ever a threat prior to this film and prior to Kong Skull Island, Godzilla would have sensed that and would have traveled to Skull Island to take care of him, and he didn't. So I'm going to venture the guess that there is going to be an actual antagonist that's not Godzilla or Kong, and I think that Kong and Godzilla are going to somehow have to join forces. That's just a prediction, but I really do think that there is a lot that we are not seeing. If we look at the director's Instagram, for example, he has literally mentioned the fact that we are only seeing a small tip of the iceberg with regard to this film. So I think that there is a lot to look forward to. But since the MonsterVerse has gone above and beyond in depicting characters like Godzilla and Kong as anti-heroes, I don't think they're going to part ways with that. I really don't. Do I think Godzilla and Kong are going to battle? Yes, I do. And I think it's going to be pretty huge. But I think the end result is going to be something entirely different. Anyway, share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel if you were a Godzilla or Kong fan, because I'm going to be doing more videos talking about the upcoming film. And click like if you haven't yet. Talk to you later. Bye.